Welcome to Haunted Canada. Hi everyone, this is Nadine. If you want to support the creation of this podcast, please take the time to leave a 5-star written review, share this podcast, and tell a friend. You can also support us through the link in the show notes titled Show Your Support, Buy Me a Coffee. If you have a ghost story, haunting, or true crime that you'd like for us to cover on this podcast, please email me through the website hauntedcanada.com. I'll also be reading listeners' ghost stories and hauntings that they send to me on this podcast. So if you have any of your own ghost stories, strange encounters, or hauntings from Canada or around the world, please email them to me so I can share them with the listeners. Now, on with the show. Welcome to episode 20 of Haunted Canada, where we're going to delve into 3 more ghost stories from across Canada. First, we're going to head to Vancouver, British Columbia, to hear about the many ghost stories surrounding the historic Orpheum Concert Hall. Then, we're going to talk about the many ghost stories surrounding the Waterloo County Jail in Kitchener, Ontario. And then we're going to finish off in Calgary, Alberta, to delve into the historic and haunted Suitor House in the famous Inglewood area. The Orpheum Concert Hall in Vancouver, British Columbia is a beautiful historic and haunted venue decorated in a range of styles from Gothic, Romantic, and Spanish Renaissance that is the home to not just one, but 3 secret ghosts that have been roaming throughout the theatrical hallways since it opened in 1927. Originally, the theater was a place for traveling performers to take the stage to entertain the nightly sold-out crowds that would gather to be entertained by performers, singers, and vaudeville acts and acrobats. The Orpheum Concert also attracted major Hollywood stars back in the day, including Frank Sinatra and Jack Benny. In the early 1970s, the Orpheum Concert Hall saw a dramatic drop in revenue, and like most historic buildings of its day, it was in danger of being torn down or converted into something else. And this was to be the fate of the Orpheum when by 1972, the Orpheum was about to be converted into a multiplex movie theater until the city of Vancouver stepped in and purchased the historic building, forever preserving the iconic structure. Like most haunted theaters around the world, the historic Orpheum Theater has not just one, but 3 separate ghosts. The first ghost goes back to the late 1920s when tragically a vaudeville performer who was performing a trapeze act fell to his death. The acrobats were performing on the trapeze high above the stage, when during the last difficult somersault as the acrobat performer was flying through the air, the acrobat did not catch the arms of his partner and he fell to the ground to his death. The crowd thought that this was a part of the performance and jumped to their feet, applauding the amazing acrobat performance that they had just witnessed. Yet as the crowd continued to clap, waiting for the acrobats to jump to their feet to take a bow, the acrobat's lifeless body remained on the cold wooden floor. That's when the audience and the staff at the Orpheum Concert Hall knew that something was tragically wrong. People ran onto the stage to try to help the acrobat, yet sadly, nothing could be done. The performer was dead. He had died instantly when he hit the theater floor. A hush grew over the crowd as the performer's lifeless body was lifted off the stage, and since that day, it is believed that the acrobat's ghostly spirit still roams throughout the Orpheum Theater, the last place he performed before his tragic death. Actors and employees have said that when they're in the theater late at night, that they can often see the apparition of a trapeze act being performed on the theater stage, witnessing what appears to be a man swinging back and forth, when all of a sudden they say that the performer is flying through the air, stretching out his arms to catch his partner's hands when he misses and falls to the stage floor. People say that when they witness this ghostly performance, that they can often hear the loud bang when the ghostly apparition of the acrobat hits the stage floor. Yet when the employees run onto the stage to check, there's nobody there. Many believe that it is the ghost of the acrobat that is performing his last act over and over again at the Orpheum Concert Hall. To this day, Many believe that it is the spirit of the acrobat still performing his final trapeze act, the one that led to his tragic death in the late 1920s. The second ghost that is often seen at the Orpheum Concert Hall is that of a washroom attendant that is often seen in the men's downstairs washroom. For those who might not be familiar as to what a washroom attendant is, back in the 1920s till about the 1940s, most well-known establishments would have a bathroom attendant, a man or a woman dressed in uniform who would work in the washrooms to keep them clean, turn the water on for the guests to wash their hands, and then hand the guests a towel. Many men who have gone downstairs to the bathroom report that as soon as they open the bathroom door, that they can see the ghostly apparition of an older man dressed in a 1920s uniform. The older man seems to have a warm and friendly smile on his face and always greets the person with a friendly, "Hello, sir." The guest is always a bit startled, as seeing a bathroom attendant is not the norm at the Orpheum Concert Hall. Guests have said that when they exit the bathroom stall, the man is still present and goes about providing exceptional service by turning on the water for the guests to wash their hands, and then has a towel ready for the person to dry their hands as well. Many people have said that they always thank the attendant, who never says a word, but always gives them a friendly smile and a nod as they begin to leave the washroom. Many guests have said that when they take that last look back to thank the attendant one more time before they open the door to exit, that the bathroom is now completely empty, and that the man that was just there a few moments earlier has now vanished. Others report that when they enter the men's washroom, that they'll suddenly notice a major drop in the temperature, and the bathroom becomes extremely cold, so cold in fact that they can see their own breath. Yet when they walk back out into the hallway, the temperature returns to normal. It is believed that the ghost of the male attendant who serviced the male's washroom for many years still haunts that bathroom to this day. Staff have reported over the years that when they're in the washroom, the taps will go on and off by themselves, and that the toilets will continuously flush when the bathroom is completely empty. Others notice that the bathroom is often freezing when they enter, while others get the feeling as if someone is standing right next to them when they're in front of the mirror. While on other occasions, people report that when they're looking in the mirror, that they'll often see a man or a shadow walk behind them in the reflection of the mirror. The third ghostly spirit is that of a woman dressed in elegant clothing who is often seen on the upper floor balcony jumping to her feet to give a round of applause during rehearsals and performances. Many actors have reported that when they're on stage rehearsing for an upcoming performance, that they can suddenly hear clapping coming from the empty audience. Many performers will look into the empty audience or look to the top floor balcony, only to see a woman dressed in early 1940s clothing standing up and enthusiastically clapping. On other occasions, that same phantom woman can be heard clapping during actual performances, with audience members left shocked, looking around to see who is clapping during the live performance. When actors and the employees begin to hear the ghostly clapping from the audience, they'll often get the smell of perfume, almost like flowers are all around them. This is how the staff at the theater will know that the ghost of the woman is making her presence known. While the Orpheum Concert Hall is a heritage building in Vancouver, British Columbia, it is also known as one of the most haunted and historic theaters in the city, with 3 separate ghosts roaming throughout the historic concert hall still to this day. The Waterloo County Jail, located in Kitchener, Ontario, was originally constructed in 1852 and was the area's first jail and execution site, and today is the oldest government building still standing in the area that is full of ghosts and haunts that make it one of the area's most unique attractions. When the Waterloo County Jail was built in 1852, it consisted of a jail and 4 exercise yards surrounded by brick walls. The county gallows also had a courthouse and a jail, as it was the requirement back in 1852 for the area to be called a county. The Waterloo County Jail was built in the classic revival style out of granite, stone, and brick trim. It was the only stone building in the region built in that style, incorporating brick as a decorative feature. In 1878, The governor's house was added to the front of the Waterloo gallows for the gallower and his family. The governor's house, designed by local architect David W. Greenwich, was built in the mid-Victorian Italian villa style and is one of the last existing houses of its type in the area. It has been noted that the governor's house was built to act as a visual barrier between the surrounding community and the jail. The home also reflected the governor's respected position in the town of Berlin, which would later become known as Kitchener. There were 3 hangings at the Waterloo Jail, with the last man hung being Reginald White. On April 25, 1940, Reginald White was hung in the jail yard, yet to this day, no one knows what happened to his body. But it is still believed that his spirit and the spirits of the other 2 men that were hung at the jails still roam throughout the historic and haunted building. Reginald White was convicted of the most cowardly of crimes. He murdered his employer, an elderly farmer by the name of John Milroy, and John's elderly blind sister over a dispute regarding money. Reginald killed both John and Annie with an axe. It was described as the area's most brutal and horrific double murder in local history. The murder happened in August of 1939, when Reginald White went to the Milroy farm and attacked 78-year-old John and his blind sister, 73-year-old Annie. Reginald was desperate for money so that he could marry a local woman, so he went to the farm and demanded money. When John refused to give Reginald any money, Reginald then attacked them both, killing them with an axe. The next morning, the dead bodies of John and his sister Annie were discovered by a neighbor, 16-year-old Jessie. Jessie went by the Milroy farm early that morning to borrow some flour from Annie and to deliver them a pie that she had baked for them. Jessie and 73-year-old Annie were very close. Annie was like a second mother to Jessie, and they would often spend time together cooking and baking. Reginald White was quickly arrested and charged with the brutal double murder. His trial was held at the Waterloo County Courthouse. The jury only deliberated for 3 hours and 20 minutes when they returned with a guilty verdict for both murders, with Judge James Malcolm imposing the heaviest penalty, death by hanging. When Reginald heard that he was to be hung, he collapsed in the prisoner's box. Reginald White's hanging was set for April 25, 1940, and just a few days before the execution date, the hangman, John Ellis, arrived in Kingston, Ontario from Cochrane, Alberta, arriving via train. The hangman inspected the scaffolding that would be used for the gallows. The hangman approved all the equipment and then went about setting up the noose to ensure that the proper length was available to ensure quick death. In Canada at the time, the long drop method of hanging a convicted prisoner was used, as this was the method developed by the British in the 19th century, where a convicted person had a noose fitted around his or her neck, falling through a trap in the gallows to their death. It was noted by some of the officials that attended the hanging of Reginald White that, quote, "He took it like a man, and he went out happy." As per procedure, a black flag was hoisted up the flagpole of the jail, and a notice of execution was tacked on the door of the jail as well. After Reginald White was executed at the Waterloo County Jail on April 25, 1940, no one claimed his body, so he was buried in the jail yard cemetery. In 1986, the area where the 3 prisoners were buried was located, and an excavation was done by archaeologists. While the first 2 prisoners' corpses were discovered, the only body that was never located was that of Reginald White. And to this day, nobody knows where Reginald's body was buried, and it is often referred to as the missing corpse. It is widely believed that the spirits of the 3 men, including that of Reginald White, that were hung at the Waterloo County Jail, are still roaming throughout the building to this day. Current employees report that they can often hear the sounds of heavy footsteps walking up and down the staircase. Doors will often slam shut and windows will open and close. Many employees report that when they're at their desks, papers and books are mysteriously pushed off the end of their desks by an unknown force, and doors will often lock, trapping employees inside their offices for hours until the door just mysteriously pops open all by itself. Many staff have seen the ghostly apparition of 3 men standing at the top of the staircase with ropes hanging from their necks, and to this day, many employees believe that it is the spirit of the 3 men, including Reginald White, the last man that was hung at the Waterloo Jail, that they are all still haunting the building where they were hung to this day. The Suitor House in Calgary, Alberta, is a very historic and haunted house. Many believe that the ghost of a lonely widow is still wandering throughout the 3rd floor of the historic home. The Suitor House was built in 1908 in the classic Queen Anne Revival style. It was built by Robert Suitor for his wife and 3 daughters. Originally from Vermont, Robert Suitor arrived in Calgary in 1902 and began to develop his construction business. Robert was a local contractor and respected businessman who served 2 terms as an alderman. When the real estate market collapsed in 1922, Robert Suitor sold the grand house and moved to Vancouver. The house changed hands many times over the years and was used for many different purposes, including as a residence, a hospital, care home, boarding house, and an office space. Today, it is occupied by the Calgary General Surgeon Association. In the 1930s, the house was used as a boarding house where people could rent a room by the day, week, or by the month, and this is where many of the ghost stories at the Suitor home began. During that time, a young couple lived at the Suitor home on the 3rd floor. The husband was a hard-working man who worked at the local railway, and he would often jump onto moving train cars nearby to get back and forth to the job site. Sadly, one day when the man was trying to jump off one of the moving trains, he slipped and fell beneath the heavy steel wheels of the train, which killed him instantly. When the wife found out about her husband's death, she was devastated and continued to walk around the 3rd floor of the Suitor boarding home, crying night and day. Just a few weeks after her husband had passed away, the wife died as well, and many people believe that she died of a broken heart. And the wife's spirit is still seen throughout the home to this day. Many people have reported seeing a woman just standing in the 3rd floor windows, looking out, just crying. While other people who have lived or worked in the house over the years have reported hearing the sounds of a woman walking up and down the staircases, or actually heard the sounds of a woman crying coming from the 3rd floor when there's nobody ever there. On other occasions, people who have been walking in the neighborhood late at night have often reported seeing what appears to be a man dressed in early 1900s attire just standing on the front steps of the Suitor home, just covered in blood. Most people will take a second glance, but when they look back, the man suddenly vanishes in front of them. Many people believe that it is that man that died so tragically in that railway accident, returning to the Suitor boarding home looking for his wife. The Suitor home was built in the Queen Anne Revival style, and that does add a spooky and haunting feeling to anyone who is ever looking at the home. The Queen Anne Revival style itself is a very common and creepy style that is used for many haunted homes, from the famous Addams Family to the many haunted mansions at Disney. While the Suitor House is now recognized as an old historic home in the idyllic Inglewood area of Calgary, Alberta, it is well documented as one of the area's most haunted homes. Well, everyone, that is the end of episode 20 of Haunted Canada, and I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to listen. I really do appreciate it. Now I would actually like to read out a ghost story that was sent in to me from a fan. This was sent to me via the fan text. However, there was no name attached to it, but I do know that it was sent to me from somebody in Calgary, Alberta, with the last 2 digits of their cell number being 07. So thank you to this supporter for sending me in this story. Here it is. Good morning. I used to work at a restaurant in Edmonton about 22 years ago. The restaurant was in an old house looking over the river valley, just down the street from the high-level bridge. The restaurant was called Divine's. I used to clean the restaurant in the early mornings before the restaurant would ever open. I think from my memory, the house had 5 levels. The restaurant ran on the 4th level. The bottom levels were apartments at that time. This place was haunted by 2 ghosts, I believe. One was a child that loved to play tricks, turning lights on and off, taking the staff's belongings and returning them a few hours or days later. When I was in the restaurant alone sometimes, I would often hear running from the top floors of the house. A child giggling. My boss's office was on the top floor of the house, and my boss said that her office was haunted by the child's father. She said that she could tell when he was in the office because the room would smell of dirty feet. The men's washroom was on the lower floor on its own. I would have trouble cleaning that washroom. I would be able to feel a very strong presence when I was down there. Sometimes the water would start gurgling up through the urinals when I was down there as well. My boss told me that when the house was built, the lower floors, which at the time were apartments, used to be the stables. Sometimes you'd be able to hear the sounds of the horses' hooves and neighing. This is a great ghost story, and a big thank you to the supporter who sent it in. And just a quick note for anyone who sends me messages via the fan mail. Unfortunately, it does not provide me with an option to reply to you, so if you'd like to have an answer to any of your questions, please feel free to email me through the website. Well, everyone, that is the end of episode 20 of Haunted Canada, and I wanted to thank everyone for listening, and also a thank you to the show sponsor, Edmonton Ghost Tours. I will link it in the show notes. If you would like to support the continuation of the Haunted Canada podcast to hear more episodes, please follow the podcast, give us a like, and a 5-star written review. Also, you can follow us on our different social media platforms. And if you have a ghost story, haunting, or true crime that you would like for us to cover on this podcast, or if you have a ghost story or haunting that you would like for me to read out on this podcast, please email me through the website, hauntedcanada.com. Have a good night, everyone, and stay haunted.